We often tell you on this show that last-minute changes are a no-no when it comes to the Leadville Trail 100. Stick to what you have tried, stick to what you know. However, there are exceptions, like if you need to replace your helmet. First, make sure you got one because, it's in the rules. You got to wear a helmet. Second, if you'd like to upgrade your head protection, then we would never get in the way of that kind of thinking. In fact, we'd encourage it and hope you'd have a look at laser helmets.
Yes, that is right. And a new or different helmet should not have a dramatic effect on your ability to ride. So having a good one that can protect your brain if something goes wrong, is really what you want. Laser has a number of great helmets that work for any Leadville racer. Most notably, they've introduced their own anti-rotational impact system, and it's called Kinetic Core. Now, Hadi and I have talked about the Jackal trail helmet with Kinetic Core, and during the original launch, Laser also announced the Strata with Kinetic Core. It is more of a road-style helmet, but would be perfect at Leadville. I got to be honest, Hadi, I wanted one, couldn't get one. I'll get one eventually, but every year to 3 years, it's a good idea to get a new helmet.
Since that original launch, Laser has added to its Kinetic Core collection with 6 more models. Now, one is an enduro helmet, and 2 are for time trialing, so not really Leadville stuff. They now have a second trail helmet called the Coyote, a little more affordable than that Jackal. And they have 2 more road helmets, the Tempo and the Tonic. So if your helmet has had it and you need something new, check out all of Laser's helmets at lasersport.com.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race, presented by Shimano. Find them at bike.shimano.com. It is Season 5, Episode 19 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I am Michael Houghton, Hadi to most.
And I am Fatty, and I have some great news. Last year, Hadi, one of my favorite moments in the whole season was when we got together with a couple hundred of our best friends and did a little group ride, and as well as a nice chat the Thursday before the Leadville 100. We're going to do it again this year.
Yeah, we are not messing with what turned out to be a pretty spectacular formula and format. We are happy to say that our pre-race ride is being backed by our podcast sponsors. The feed in particular is going to be showing up in force along with DNA Cycling.
So here's some details. It's going to be Thursday morning, just like last year. It is going to be August 11th, so make sure you show up on the correct Thursday, 9 a.m., just like last year. And we're going to meet at the same place, the Ice Palace Park in Leadville. We're going to saddle up right out of town. We're going to go partway up Keevens, that first mile where there's that sharp left turn we've talked about in the course more than once, where they're going to hang out for a minute, talk for a few minutes, then turn around, ride back into town, and up the boulevard. We are not going to go fast. If you can't hold a conversation, you're going too fast.
Yep, chill pace, party pace, if you will. When you're back, the feed will be on hand with some thank yous for supporting the show, and we'll bring some cool socks, t-shirts, and musette bags from DNA for a few lucky folks as well.
And don't be surprised if there are some cycling celebrities along for the ride. In fact, be surprised if there aren't. I mean, of course, Hadi and I are going to be there, and we're super celebrities, but other folks as well.
Big time. Mark your calendars for Thursday, 9 a.m., and Google Ice Palace Park, Leadville for the location.
And an important final note here, like everywhere in Leadville, parking is crazily, severely limited. So ride your bike to the park. Last year we said, if you can, ride your bike to the park. But the fact is, if you don't ride your bike to the park, you won't find a place to park. So ride your bike to the park, and we will see you there.
All right, this is a special edition of the Leadville Trail 100 Mountain Bike Podcast, a bonus interview, if you will. We've been getting ready for the 2022 Leadville Trail 100, but what about after that? I mean, you have all this fitness, plus once you've recovered from Leadville, you'll probably have a little more. Why let it go to waste? So we have an interview with Mike McCormack, the man behind Breck Epic, and a second race, both of which come after the LT100. You know, I was thinking about what we told racers a few episodes ago, or maybe it was the last episode, about wearing a colorful jersey on race day. That's a great way to make sure your crew can spot you both at the crowded start line and as you approach a feed zone. But we failed to mention one other dress code that draws from the same line of thinking, and that is your crew should also be wearing bright colors. So while you are on the DNA site picking out a yellow or pink jersey for yourself, get one or two for your crew too.
Yeah, Hottie, I am, as a racer, always in a fugue state, so to speak, a complete fog when I go through the aid stations. And it is helpful to be able to see your crew from a distance. At Twin Lakes in particular, it is hard to tell one human being from another when you are blurry-eyed and just, out of your head. So having you and Mrs. Hottie out there in, for example, bright yellow jerseys from DNA would be very helpful. Instead of slowing down as I enter the feed zone so I don't miss my pit, I would like to aim for that bright yellow object, you and Mrs. Hottie, and come roaring in like an F1 race car.
Yeah, that DNA race cut yellow jersey has served me in two ways, both on the bike as a wind-cheating, comfortable top, and in the crew zone to attract the eyes of the racer I am supporting. Now, if your crew doesn't want to wear a jersey, fine. Flip over to DNA's t-shirt company, Thread and Spoke, find a tee, and order one in one of their bright colors.
Absolutely great advice, Hottie. For the jerseys, it's DNAcycling.com, and it's where you get all of your custom kit. And for t-shirts, it's threadandspoke.com.
Every time I've done the Leadville Trail 100, I have felt pretty drained for the next few days after. But within a week, I was ready to go again. And usually I'd find myself to another start line before the race season ran out. In fact, I had some really good results after the Leadville Trail 100, probably because I got a nice bump in fitness because of the Trail 100.
Yeah, just because you've crossed the finish line at 6th and Harrison does not mean the racing or event riding has to be done for the season. That finish line is not your season finish line. Listeners to this show have probably heard me talk about the Breck Epic more than once. It usually follows the Leadville 100, and for people who want to stay in the high country, Breck is more than great. It is fantastic. And there are a lot of things that make it so good. The format, the location, as well as, in fact, above all, the trails. But that only goes so far. Great events have great leaders, and that is what Breck has in Mike McCormack. Mike has led Breck for more than a dozen years, and while it is now a UCI race and is supported by Ironman, he's resisted selling the race he started and grew. We'll talk to Mike about Breck and his new event. Notice we said his and not a new event, the Vail 100. So if you're wondering what to do with all that extra Leadville fitness you've got, Mike Mack might have some answers for you. Mike McCormack, welcome to the Leadville podcast. Did you ever think you would be here?
No, I never aspired to these heights. Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to have you on this show for a couple of reasons, and we'll talk about all of them. But first, tell us a little bit about your path to becoming a race promoter.
Yeah, I mean, you get funneled towards things that you're capable of doing. You shy away from things that you aren't capable of doing. You could draw a parallel there between the United States education system and the education system literally anywhere else in the world. Generalists versus specialists. I grew up kind of in the bike industry and moved to Breckenridge in 1999 and ended up being good friends with Jeff Westcott, and we started running a local Wednesday night race series together and started the Firecracker and Mountain Bike Little League, and it's a great partnership. Jeff is my first wife. I learned how to be a good partner, and still a great friend. I remember reading an article. It's sort of my life went in a different direction than Jeff's. I had family, got married, and so I needed to do dad things, responsible things. And I moved away from Maverick Sports Promotions, which was the business we began together, and read an article around 2007 that Mike Ferrantino wrote about racing the Trans Rockies and how he ripped both of his Achilles into shreds hiking up endless power lines in a brand new pair of CDs. And I remember thinking to myself, I was sitting in Clint's coffee shop at the time, man, we could do better than that. And so my lurker, passive aggressive competitive streak came out, and it started plotting about how to create the Breck Epic. And as we have discussed prior, it's amazing what you can do with blind confidence and glaring blind spots about what you're not good at. Enthusiasm carries the day, and 14 years later, here we are. We have the Breck Epic, and as most event promoters will tell you, events are equal parts organization, communication, and the ability to field curveballs gracefully at best. And having an ADHD brain, that is apparently what I'm good enough at to eke out a living here.
So I will say that in my life of cycling, in 20 plus years of cycling, I've had 2 perfect weeks of riding. One of them was touring with Andy Hampsten in France. Hard to beat. The other was the first time I did the Breck Epic. So, I mean, honestly, it's in a lifetime of riding, that your event is one of the week-long events that just stands out forever. And I can still remember as clearly as when I did it, I don't know, more than a decade ago now. So tell us a little bit about the Breck Epic and why a Leadville racer, someone like me, basically, might find it intriguing.
You did it. First of all, thank you. Like that's what success looks like to us. Someone going away and saying, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. That's the point. It's less about who wins and who loses and more about, man, did you enjoy yourself? Did you challenge yourself? Are you enriched? So if my memory is correct, you did Breck immediately after completing Leadville 1 year, and then immediately before completing Leadville in the 1 year we had the race prior to Leadville, the second time you did it, which is bold. That's a lot of miles above 10,000 feet. I've lost track of the question.
I was asking just a general overview of what the Breck Epic is for those who are not familiar with the race, and what your, I guess, intent was for putting together a high Colorado mountainous, most, I would say, like what, 98% single track stage race was.
Yeah, thank you for the redirect. It's like having someone feed you your lines. The goal was to showcase the width and breadth of that community's trail network, which is, as you know, magnificently interconnected. Breck is unique in that it's surrounded by public lands. Summit County is majority public lands. And the care and feeding of that network over the past 20 years has been remarkable. The land managers at the county, federal, and primarily the town level have done an incredible and thoughtful job of not just making sure that it stays good, but making it better. And, you know, the collaborative nature of that relationship is a thing of beauty. And I think what success looks like in terms of multi-jurisdictional land management. The race started as a love letter to Summit County. Like, man, it is so good here. And you can do these enormous back of beyond rides from your garage every day, a different one every day all summer long. And I wanted to share that experience with people. And at the advent of Epic, you know, mountain biking was going through a weird time with the UCI. And I think Norbo was on the ebb at that point. But, you know, there was a little bit of a fist in the air protest race at that point. You know, we can do this better. We can provide more value. We can enrich the experience, and we can send people like you home with a life memory. Like, this should be a personal Everest. This should be something that you draw upon in times of joy, in times of despair. Look at the back of your belt buckle. Like it says it all. You did this. And it ain't easy, right? It's hard, but it's also attainable. It's chess match. It's recovery contest. It's a test of your ability to address the demons that live inside your own head and just keep ticking them over. That's it. And when you finish stage 6, we've got beer there for you, right? And belt buckles and the joy of a uniquely challenging shared experience.
Mike, while some people, not all, a chosen few have been Leadvillers and then done your race or vice versa, have you done their race? Or I shouldn't say their, but have you done your neighboring race, the Leadville 100?
I have not. I have a lot of respect for the Leadville folks. I think we're apples and oranges. I was very familiar with Leadville when Ken and Mary Lee were the folks running it. And then I observed in a sort of detached way the changes as Lifetime sort of took over operational control. And it's a neat event. It really is. It's different from what we do. But 100 miles of anything is hard. You really have to respect what's going on over there. And I think that our tribes have so much overlap. Like, we're all mountain bikers. And that's more of a pinned endurance experience. And ours is more of a backcountry experience.
So describe for us then the skills. I mean, I think most of our audience is very familiar with the skills they're going to need at Leadville. What would they need at Breck Epic? What are the big differences if they show up at Breck?
It's a great question. I always think, Summit County is not that technical. And if you ride in Summit County, it's not. And if you go to BC, it's a bunch of skinnies and drops, like the locals there, like, oh, it's not that technical. So those things are relative, and you need to be aware of that everyone's particular lens is personal and therefore subjective. I do think it's not that technical, but it is mountain biking. And as we said, they're not the Stay Puft Marshmallow Mountains. They're the Rocky Mountains. So you can expect your mountain bike skills will be challenged, but not to the point of despair or broken psyches. It's a mountain bike race in capital letters, and that's who we are. So a fit person who's spent miles on their bike and who can ride Leadville, I would say to almost 100% is capable of riding Breck Epic. They're already mountain bikers. This just has more backcountry in it.
For sure, you probably have the legs and lungs to do it. There is a pretty major difference, and that is the amount of time over a certain number of days, right? 100 miles in one day is one thing and is incredibly challenging. Doing multiple days, every morning for a week does take something else out of you. And riding really more or less single track for each of those days is tough. That said, I will say that I have gone back. I've done Breck officially twice, and I've gone back on many years that I have not raced Breck and just gotten out my Strava from my Breck racing and done some of those trails just on my own, because Breckenridge has a ridiculous amount of incredible single track. So they're both endurance and both incredible. And this year, I understand you've got some pretty incredible stars coming. Who are they?
Lachlan Morton, I think tops the list. There's an outside chance that we might see Keegan, but I think Keegan's chasing the Lifetime Grand Prix super bucket of gold doubloons. So we understand. I think we're going to see Carolyn Mani, who cyclocross fans will recognize. She is a French rider who's riding co-ed duo this year. We have gotten word that Kat Nash might be coming back. Who, I've never met Carolyn. She seems nice. I'm sure she's great. But I have met Kat and obviously Lachlan, and wow, they're just great fits. They're one of the amazing things about mountain biking specifically is how approachable the major constellations in the mountain biking sky are. And Kat's one of those people. I mean, Lachlan is more of an adventure guy and earned his bones on the road for sure. But they're nice, right? You get to talk to them and they suffer just as much as you. And I think that's one of the neat things about a big event, whether it's Leadville or Breck. You're on the same course as those people. And while Lachlan may finish in 3 hours on a given day and Kat may finish in 3:10, they're at the nightly meeting. They're hanging out, talking to people. And they're just unique personalities. I think Lachlan charmed his way. Like it's so rare to touch road royalty. It's a little bit different than mountain biking. And collectively, I think that we all feel like the roadies slum a little bit when they come to a mountain bike race. Like it's who was that? Peter Sagan just raced on Bound, right? But he did it as a lark and that came through, but it's still Peter Sagan. And so Lachlan is prodigiously talented, ridiculously humble, kind, funny. He just over delivers. And Kat Nash, like you can say all the same things. Kat has a generational engine. She is a phenomenal human being. She is nice. And it's so amazing, occasionally as like 50-year-old humans, like you've met people who touch celebrity or who qualify and they don't impress on a humanist level. They're just, we see those people who are less than we hope them to be. And in this case, like these two people are more. And so it restores balance, right, to the universe, which I personally love. They're great fits with us.
No question. Now, most of the folks who are listening to this podcast at least are aware of Breck Epic. And if they want to sign up for Breck Epic, they're going to have to sign up for 2023. Is that right? 2022 is full at this point, correct?
Have you heard about our refund and deferral policy? This hopelessly outdated patent leather saddle shoes of a thing. We made a point early on where we told people, we'll give you your money back if you can't race. And while we've instituted like a time frame for that, we still have an incredibly liberal deferral and transfer policy. And so I think of June and July as deferral season, as people just leave the ship. And so while technically we're full, like we're in this sort of one in, one out phase right now.
Yeah, there might be some availability. So that's interesting to know. I'm actually leaning more toward another race that you are just starting that some of the folks who listen to this podcast might be interested in that comes right after Leadville, or at least I should say, a month or so after Leadville. For folks who haven't got in this year, or perhaps did get in and have great legs now and want to do something else with them, tell us about the Vail 100, your new event.
Right. Yeah. Why not us? Like, why couldn't we take on something? Leadville is one of the, it's one of the foundations. It's a monument. I think Breck Epic qualifies as a mountain bike monument also. 24 Hours of Moab certainly qualifies that event no longer exists, but we were all inspired by what Ken did, by what 24 Hours of Moab did Laird. And we all borrow pieces from each other. The Vail 100 existed at about the same time. I think it was, let's call it a tribute event towards the very full fields of Leadville. As it turns out, one of the guys who owned the group that promoted it, Highline Sports and Entertainment, is a fellow hockey dad. And we have been sniffing around relaunching the Vail 100 for about 4 or 5 years, like working with the Forest Service, trying to figure out routes, get approvals, which is challenging. And when it looked like we might actually be able to do it, I turned to my fellow hockey dad, James Deegan, and said, hey, what are you doing with the Vail 100? He's like, nothing. And I said, would you mind if, we took a run at it? He's like, go ahead. I only produce events that make money. And but that's James. And I was like, great, we're going to take it. So we did. We're bound by some constraints that from the Forest Service that didn't exist, 15 years ago when Vail last ran. And so we have a course that is, half maintained gravel and half kind of rowdier double track, with maybe a little bit of single track thrown in. It is just perfect for an adventure gravel bike. 40C tires probably and above. But if I was going to ride it, I would take a short travel 29-inch bike and just go fast and hard. It's perfect for that. So, when you talk about inspiration, Crusher and the Tusher, I love what they do there. You've raced it,
I'm heading there this afternoon.
The one thing that's always stuck out is bring whatever bike you want, but just know at some point you're going to be on the wrong bike. And that's a part of, it's this gigantic, wine stain hole, gaping flaw. And at the same time, it defines the beauty of the event. So we're doing that in Vail. We're hosting it at Four Eagle Ranch, which is this like working dude ranch. There's a huge, meeting space there where we can feed people. We'll have live music. Everybody gets donuts in their goodie bag. And the event itself is raising money for the Education Foundation of Eagle County. I'm not sure how many people know that Colorado ranks 48th or 49th in education funding because of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and which basically says you can't raise the budget for something without getting approval from the taxpayers, which has had the unintended effect of detonating education funding. So we're raising money for that. Riders can choose to they can choose to pay a flat entry fee and just skip all the fundraising stuff because some people aren't into that. Or for a reasonable amount, I think it's raise $499, you can fundraise, you get a comp entry, and we split the money between EFEC, Education Foundation for Eagle County, which takes that money and gives it back to teachers and lets them buy pencils or increases their wage, which is also run by another hockey parent. Interesting. And then my wife and I were sort of talking about how to give back to the things that have mattered in our lives. So EFEC is one, a handful of other schools, the Vail Mountain School, putting money into their scholarship program so more kids can attend an institution like that. Zealous Schools, where both of our kids went, micro schools. And then weirdly, and this may not resonate with a lot of people, we're giving a slice of the proceeds to the local hockey club and the local lacrosse club, because those two experiences have allowed us to spend so much time together as a family, and they don't come without price tags. So we've worked with those two groups to make sure that some of the money from the raise goes into their scholarship funds, which then go to families who might not normally be able to afford that. They pay for club fees, hotel rooms, travel, equipment. We had a long conversation as our marital unit about how to do something meaningful to us. And we really boiled it down to, let's focus on the things that have made our lives better personally. There's a lot of great causes within cycling and without. And for us, this is simple. We know the people. We are deeply integrated with the experiences. And to get back to the point that your listeners probably care about, it's an amazing course, right? It's there's 30, 50, and 100-mile options, and there's an e-bike option on the 30-mile course, solo and duo categories. And I think what we're able to do with the Vail 100 is take everything we know about Breck, so aid station support, organization, how to start people, how to keep them safe. That's an important one. And lay it over a different one-day course and really let people go long but light, which I personally love. Firecracker is the same basic concept.
All right, we have more coming up with Mike McCormack in just a second, but we wanted to take a quick time out to talk about tire pressure. There's still time between now and race day to fine-tune your pressure, and that is important. When I was at Envy a few weeks ago, I talked with Neil Shirley, former mountain bike pro, about the limits of going low and getting it right.
How much air should racers be putting in their tires for this race, or really for any race? I will say that I feel like I can go with a pretty low pressure, and I will bang my rims from time to time. I don't think I've ever busted an Envy rim from a rock strike.
Yeah. Well, I think, one of our key technologies is the wide hookless bead on that rim. And, we developed it on the mountain and then have moved it over to the G23s, their gravel wheel sets. And then now even our SES, our road wheels, offer a level of wide hookless bead. And what that does, and it really protects against pinch flats. And, we'll go out, we'll ride, and if we don't have a couple rim strikes, on a ride, then we feel that, we're overinflating. And so it's an eerie feeling at first when you're not used to it. But if you can really get that low pressure, maximize traction and comfort, and you're not pinch flatting, slicing sidewalls on tires or busting rims, like, it's a great technology. And that's something that will continue to be on all Envy products moving forward.
And remember, Envy has a tire pressure calculator on their website. It is a great place to start. And then you go out there and see if you can drop air pressure until, as Neil said, you just avoid rim strikes on the hardest hits. Yet you have enough air that your tire is not dragging across the surface or feeling vague in corners.
Yeah, the Envy pressure calculator and its entire collection of hookless bead carbon wheels are at Envy. That is ENVE.com. All right, let's get back to Mike McCormack and his post-Leadville racing fun. Tell me about what the day is going to be like out there for the 100-mile version. That's the one I want to focus on because I think that our audience, is interested in something that might be Leadville-like, and it sounds like you're kind of describing that. So how much climbing am I going to be doing? What is the day going to be like? And when is this event?
The Vail 100 takes place on October 1st, which is a Saturday. So fall color season. It's on the terrain north of Vail. So if you look at the ridge lines just north of Vail, Eagle Vale, Avon, and Edwards, like that's it. Like we actually start just north of Wolcott. The course it's basically two loops. There's a short loop and what I think of as the medium loop. And 100-mile riders will do one short loop and two medium loops. And that allows us to have an aid station every 10 miles. So we'll use the Breck Epic, Postal Service flat rate box aid bag system. You get 3 aid bags. There'll be actually 3 aid stations on course, but you'll pass them 9 times. They're big laps, so I don't think anyone's going to get bored out there. The top half of the course is pretty maintained gravel. Like I look at Steamboat, and Steamboat has like champagne gravel, right? It's so good. And you don't need a big tire, not really on most of the stuff. The top half of the course is maintained. You're still going to want a bigger tire, but when you get to the bottom half of the course, like that's mountain bike territory or adventure bike territory. And riders are really going to have to think about what they bring and be okay with it. So the interesting chess match is that at some point you're on the wrong bike, which I love. So you ride the top half of the course, and if you're on sort of a light rig, you're going to just walk away from people. And then on the bottom half of the course, people on heavier setups are going to catch back up. So there's this cat and mouse component. So riders will climb from the ranch. It's called Four Eagle Ranch. And they're going to climb about 2,000 feet initially on a gravel road to access the main course. They'll do that small loop, hit a couple aid stations, and like that's the blowing off the top layer of jet fuel portion. The e-bike riders will head back down after that first lap. Everyone else continues on. 50 milers will do one medium loop. And things are going to yo-yo and detonate and come back together. And there's going to be a lot of kicking each other in the gonads out there based on equipment. and nothing more. But the goal is to have, and this is, I think, the point of the Breck Epic. I think we've done this well. You can have a pointy end. You can really revel in being a fan of whether it's Lachlan or Keegan or Alexis Scarta or Kat or Rose. You could be a fan, right? And be real close. But you can also relish the opportunity to have this shared experience among the rank and file, which is where the rest of us live. We're mid-packers, we're lunch bucketers, we're lanterne rougers. Those people need to be equally celebrated. You could make a pretty defensible case that it's 6 hours harder for Immortal than for Lachlan, right? Per day. So the experience on course it's really well supported. It is stunningly beautiful back there. And it's Dude Ranch, man. We're going to have terrible good music. And as I mentioned,
Mike, let's talk to the person who doesn't know the area quite as well and give them a better idea where exactly we're talking about in relation to Vail. So where does this course lay out in relation to Vail, Colorado? Is that near, where's Four Eagle Ranch? How does the thing kind of set up in the 70s? So paint us a little picture, a little map picture, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the course itself is on terrain. You can access the east side of the course from Vail. You can drive there. Except you shouldn't, because we have that rule in place. No support on course. But if you want to access it from Vail, you drive up Red Sandstone Road, right from essentially the Vail post office. And you can hit one of the 8 stations there, right at the road to Piney Lake. The start of the course is just north of Wolcott. So if you continue on I-70 past Vail, about 15, maybe 20 minutes, you'll go right past Edwards, and the next exit past Edwards is Wolcott, little unincorporated community. And then you turn north on the road to Steamboat, and you drive 3 miles, and the start is right there at the bottom of Muddy Pass. So
west of Vail, north of the 70. That's where you're kind of the start. That's where everyone's gathering, and that's where the center of activity will be, right there.
It is. That's race day. I think we're going to have we're going to do some pre-rides with the help of our partners at Rodeo. And then we are also going to have just some opt-in fun rides. We'll do one on Friday and then a brunch ride on Sunday. And we're going to throw some aid stations out there. Just make sure people have some beignets, something like crispy bacon. And we're going to have a good weekend. And the entire weekend is sort of under this moniker of Valhalla. Bring your bike, let's charge. And let's also not be afraid of a mimosa. So
I know my first trip to the Rocky Mountains was in September to Vail. And it was stunning. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Tell me about early October. What kind of weather could be in the offing for early October?
Right. Let's paint this as a benefit. You nailed it during, sounds like a peak fall color season, which is late September, early October. Really depends on the moisture in the air and the relative temperature of the evenings. We have run the Outlier Off-Road Festival in Vail during that same weekend for the past 5 or 6 years. Mostly, it's really good weather. You can count on 70-degree days. The start will be just enough to keep you cool as you enter your effort. So the start will probably be 40, 45 degrees, but it'll warm up fast. And then 70, 75 throughout the day. It's high alpine, so bring sunscreen. The flip side of that coin is that it's October above, it's the course is at 8,200 feet. That's where it starts. If it's bad, we just won't go, or we'll go on an alternate course that keeps people safe. There's not a lot of potential for us to damage the course because it's road, but it could get interesting up there. But I think there's like a 10% chance of interesting and a 90% chance of awesome.
Yeah, the fall colors are, it's something to be seen. Don't look at pictures, folks. Go there and see it. It changes everything.
It's that community is surrounded by just old growth glades of aspen, and you'll see a lot of big old growth spruce up there. So big pine trees, not the lodgepole that you see at higher elevations. But yeah, the aspens are stunning. They are the John Fielder pictures. You can ride through it.
It sounds like bring your rain gear as a just in case, and maybe set that up as part of your drop bag.
Yes.
Bring your short sleeves, bring your arm warmers, bring stuff for a variety of temperatures. It's Colorado, it's high up, and things change. In that perfect week of Breck Epic that I was talking about earlier, there was the one day when we got bucketed with rain. Just it was extraordinary. I don't know if you have before or since sent people home early on that, but I think Lisa and I were the last ones through the course or past the last aid station that you let through before you started sending people home with hypothermia. And that was in August. So it's Colorado. Be wary, just like you would do for the Leadville 100. But be prepared, whether you're on a gravel bike or on a mountain bike, for challenging, chunky terrain. And it sounds like also for some pretty smooth riding as well. How much climbing should people be prepared for? Are we talking 8,000, 10,000, what?
Thank you for pointing that out. You mentioned that before. And as my son's teachers are fond of saying, like, they do an hour of outdoor activity every morning, every single day, no matter what the weather. There is no bad weather. There are only bad clothing choices. So that's the aid bag system. If weather rolls in, the most you're going to have to suffer is 10 miles. So an hour. Until you get to your next aid bag, where hypothetically you've stashed arm and leg warmers, rain gear. You can continue on and be safe and warm if you've staged your gear correctly. The course is probably about 11,000 feet of climbing. But you get, a lot of that on road. Like, it's not ORS category climbing. There's a little bit of that in there, but I think it's more approachable than it sounds. And it's over, I think the 100-mile course, is 90 miles. Like, you get what you get with what we can access. So Crusher and the Tusher is a really analogous experience. Other than that, I think there's some tarmac and Crusher that we just don't have. This is gravel and double track.
So you're not going to spend any time on pavement, it sounds like.
No. Which is, everybody's dog is beautiful. Everybody's baby is beautiful. Crusher's an amazing event. Leadville's an amazing event. Vail 100 is its own thing. My wife, Emily, and I have 2 hockey players. We have one goalie who's a deviant weirdo, been getting by on adorability for his entire life. He's charming and neat. We have another kid who plays AAA hockey, and he has a chance to play hockey in college, which we never would have imagined. We've spent too much time thinking about trying to make them what another kid is, to draw this analogy. And recently, like we've just discovered, let them be the best versions of themselves. Like trust that is their secret sauce. So it relates to events in terms of, we're never going to be Leadville. We're different. Leadville's never going to be Breck. Breck's never going to be Leadville. We're never going to be Tusher or Steamboat Gravel. It doesn't matter. Be nice to people. Be organized. Be safe. Make your goal making sure everyone has a good time and gets their heart rate up and has, whatever fuels their fire at the end of their stage. That's it.
Yeah, with 100 miles and 11,000 feet of climbing, I think that most folks will get their heart rate up. And
Yeah.
and all of this is going to be above 8,000 feet? Is that about right? 8,000 to 10,000?
Vail itself is 8,150. You drop down the valley floors, you go to Wolcott, and then you start climbing back out. So I think it starts at 8,000. That's probably safe.
So, yeah, obviously it's not Leadville, and it's not trying to be. But if you are looking for an event because you didn't get into Leadville, or you did Leadville and you have the legs and lungs and would like to do something in addition, sounds like this is a pretty nice adjacent event.
Thank you for saying that. I think we all look at each other and we're better because of some of the things that Leadville has done. I think they would maybe say the same, that Shimano and SRAM set the bar for the other company to try and overcome and get better. Competition's good. Keeps us all real honest, and the consumers benefit from that. So yeah, if you're carrying residual fitness, if you didn't get in, if you loved racing your bike with other people, yeah, come to Vail in October.
Mike, I know that one of the partners that you have for the Vail 100 is Rodeo Adventure Labs. We have had Stephen Fitzgerald on as a guest on the show before, racing his drop bar bike to an incredibly fast time in the Leadville 100. Loved having him as a guest. Tell us a little bit about that partnership.
Thanks for bringing that up. I think Stephen is, he's raced Breck Epic before as well. I think he was a guest of Castelli a few years back. And as we began sort of seeding word of the Vail 100, we had some inbound inquiry from bike brands who were like, who's your bike partner? And really took a step back from that and began to define what we wanted from a partner there. And what I personally wanted was sweat equity. I wanted someone who was invested, as I was and we are, in making sure that the riders have a good time and that the experience caters to the back of the pack even more than the front of the pack. Like, it's supposed to be about community. And we have a couple of inner circle Breck Epic people who are Rodeo Adventure Labs ambassadors. And so I started sniffing around at times. I made one of them give me Steven's contact information, and I totally cold called him. I'm like, hey, buddy, we're doing this, and I love what you do and your approach. And so we began talking about what a collaborative production might look like. And we're still talking about it. Like, I think our relationship is defined partly by the fact that no pieces of paper have slid across anyone's tables for signatures. But loosely, we want to make sure the trains run on time, that the medical plan is in place, that registration is up and running, and people have clear expectations, with, reasonable belief that they'll be fulfilled. And Stephen and Rodeo are loosely in charge of helping us define creative, like Valhalla and a weekend full of awesomeness is really his brainchild. And with the Vail 100 being sort of the competitive centerpiece of that. But Stephen also felt really strongly about the totality of the experience, the tribe aspect, the inclusivity. So while we talk about creative and they're phenomenally gifted in that area. I think Stephen is also, how I see him is he is the gatekeeper of non-gatekeeping. Everyone is welcome. Let's have a good time together. And what I love about what they do is that they're like, if you race, that's awesome. If you don't like to race, that's awesome too. You like gravel bikes? We love you. Are you a mountain biker? Oh man, that's so cool. Like, everyone is welcome. And you're right. He is a sublimely, is that a word? Sublimely? Yeah, probably. It is for today. Talented bicyclist, right? He's fast. And so like, he gets it. He's not afraid. Stephen, I don't know whether he drinks or not. But he is not afraid of the concept of fun as defined in my head by, orange juice and vodka mixed together. So, he's a great match for us. So we're working through it. I don't want to overstate it. But yeah, we are really excited and flattered that they've taken an interest and see what we're trying to do. And in my conversations with him, he seems a lot like me, smarter, prone to flights of fancy equally. But he wants to take care of people, which I think is at the heart of what we do with any of our events. So yeah, we're excited. I think there's more to come from that camp.
Sounds like a great match.
Thank you. I hope so.
Mike, Lisa and I are looking for a place to stay. The intention is, Vail 100 after Leadville this year. So looking forward to trying it out.
I love that. Thank you. We're looking forward to hosting you. And if you don't mind chaos and dogs, you can stay with us.
One last time, thanks so much to Mike McCormack, a great guy who loves what he does, and it shows through in every one of his events.
Again, the race is the Vail 100, October 1st. There are 3 distances, 100, 50, and 30, and an e-bike race on that 30. All the details are at vail100.com. We're at that point in the season when rest and recovery are very important. And one thing I love to do before recovery is stretch and foam roll. Stretching, I mean, some trainers say it's not necessary, especially before exercise, but foam rolling is widely accepted. Foam rolling is essentially self-massage, and just about every cyclist loves a massage, don't they? The problem with the foam roller, though, is taking that thing on the road.
Yeah, and that is where the feed can help you. The feed? I mean, honestly, what? Is this our feed promo? But the feed does more than just nutrition. They do foam rollers, and they have great recovery products that you can drink and eat, and other recovery tools to help restore your body. And in their training gear section is a pretty unique product that solves the travel part of foam rollers.
Yeah, it's the Brazen Life Collapsible Roller. Totally great idea. The rollers, I should say, because there's more than one, come in 2 surface styles and 4 colors. It's about 2 feet long and collapsed about 4 inches wide, so small enough to fit in a backpack or carry-on luggage. It quickly expands to a cylinder so you can get on the floor and roll out those kinks. Another cool thing is Brazen has these sleeves, these sewn sleeves that go over the roller to keep it clean. So a well-thought-out idea for the traditional foam roller and available at the feed.
Claim your $80 annual credit at thefeed.com/Leadville. Register your email, verify your phone number, and then you can start using your feed credit right away. Let's go ahead and wrap this episode. Again, thanks to Mike McCormack of the Breck Epic and the Vail 100. Hottie and I are on social media. We're both, of course, on Twitter. I'm at Fat Cyclist. Hottie's on Instagram. He's at Michael Houghton. We're on Facebook. We are at the Leadville 100 mountain bike page far too often, and the conversation is really picking up on that page. We're happy to join when we can.
And regarding social media, I want to point people to a specific conversation that is going on that Leadville participants page, and that is the one beneath our post for show 18, the one that detailed those new changes for this year. Now, Ryan Cross of Lifetime, he was our guest on that show, commented in the post that if racers have more questions about the changes, he is available to answer them. This is a nice offer from Lifetime and from Ryan. I know folks are still kind of wondering about what's going on with some of these changes. So if you have questions, please go to that post. And Ryan, he's totally attuned to what's happening. He pays attention to the page as well, and he can answer some of your questions about the changes for this year's race.
And he's no slouch of a bike racer either. That guy knows his way with a set of cranks, right? If you like this show, go to wherever you listen. Please give us a 5-star rating, write a review. To see all the ways you can find the show, just go to leadville.fm. A little word of mouth is also a great way to help us out. Letting your racing friends know about our independent podcast is a terrific way to keep this show rolling.
Good luck in your riding, racing, and recovery. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the starting line.